Welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. We're going to do another short update. There are jets flying around in the background, and I don't think that's going to stop, so we're just going to go right on through it. This time we're going to talk about an article from opb.org. And it says, federal law enforcement using unmarked vehicles to grab protesters off the Portland streets. Okay, the article's pretty bad, all right? The article talks about peaceful protesters getting shot in the face by evil federal agents, despite the fact that they're using paintballs and BBs to shoot at the federal officers. They're trying to burn down buildings. These are committed arsonists. These groups have been terrorizing Portland for a couple of years, and we have long history of reports: traumatic brain injuries, arson, black businesses being destroyed for being willing to sell coffee to the wrong people. That's not freedom. That's not liberty. That's not redress of grievances against the government. It's not freedom of assembly. That's rioting, and that's violent gangs trying to control an area without governmental authority or governmental methods, okay? Pure authority through force. The last 45, 48 days have been really bad in Portland because we've been dealing with the riots and the protests. So when you start getting into the idea of arson on federal buildings, then you have to have some protection. And if the police department isn't willing to do it, the state's not willing to do it, you end up with federal officers. And it's a bad situation, but what are you going to do? Let the left bomb federal buildings and it's okay because they're Antifa? Or Black Lives Matter? Or whatever? You can't do that. That's not good, okay? There's not a really good answer to this, but yeah, you have federal agents, and yeah, unfortunately, you're going to be dealing with putting police in areas of large-scale confrontation with people who aren't willing to back down because they honestly believe that the police can't hurt them. Okay, we have a couple of problems here, all right? One area is the rioters are just totally bug nuts insane. They're not good actors. They're not good people. Done with that. But we've got two main factors to deal with when you're reading these news reports. One is, and I'm sorry to be negative about this, I have friends in law enforcement, and I believe that a rural sheriff's office is often the best example we have of the positives of law enforcement. But being they're training people on F-35s, you can tell, because usually when they fly over my house that low, it's because, one, it's an F-35 pig, and two, they don't know what they're doing. So, definitely training flights. Being a cop, federal or local, means that you have joined a fraternity that has a long and extensive history of abuse of citizens. And I have no way to phrase that is nicer. Okay? Throughout all of history, corruption, abuse of power, misuse of power, whatever, these are stock in trade for police. There's nothing you can do to erase that history. There's a lot you can do to make sure that history does not happen again. And hey, being a cop, again, federal or local, means that you are not assumed to be good, but you are assumed to be subject to a much higher standard than the citizenry, because you need to operate at a higher standard. And to be fair, the evidence I'm seeing from Portland is that the police, federal and local, have been operating at a very high standard. Okay? There would be a lot more death if, yeah, they've been operating with the utmost restraint, okay? But remember that we're dealing with federal agencies, and you can't assume that these federal agencies are good. These are the same people who assassinated the Weavers in Idaho, who burned children in Waco, okay? They're not necessarily good people, whether they're fighting Seventh-day Adventists or Antifa, that part doesn't really matter. They themselves are not necessarily good people, okay? And they're willing to do a lot of nasty things under orders because orders is orders. All right, the federal government is correct. What has been going on for the last month and a half is really bad, okay? You can argue, without knowledge of what they're actually doing, that what they're doing is bad. Their methods are bad. They're using unmarked cars. According to the article, they're using unmarked cars to transport people in camouflage, but they're marked cars because they're marked to pick up random people off the street randomly. And that doesn't make any sense. Whatever. It's indisputable that Portland is allowing gangs of thugs to harm and damage and restrict the freedoms of Americans, damage their property, and you got to stop that. But the media is the other side of this, okay? That's an F5. Don't trust federal authorities, federal government, federal police, especially by default. Automatically distrust. Let them prove themselves to you. But the media? Okay, look, the media's been justifying this. The media literally, when one guy got attacked for reporting on riots, the media literally blamed him for incitement. Why? Because he held a camera. He didn't say anything. He held a camera. This is the media you're talking about. The people doing the reporting about these federal law enforcement are lying all the time. Okay? They justify traumatic brain injury. They deny crimes of arson exist. They deny that looting happens. They deny that rioting happens. They refuse to report black deaths from rioters. They won't report on black businesses being burned. They won't. They report people trying to stop arson as a military junta. They report active self-defense as attacks. They lie. You don't have a good answer on this one, but you need to be aware. While it's not a good idea to just trust the federal police or the local police or whatever they say by default, it's also a really bad idea to believe anything that is being reported. The one thing you can absolutely rely on is that any report that promotes outrage is a lie. On some level. So, stay sideways, and see you later.